Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, and if you're new, welcome. My name is Adelina and I make videos about living in this tiny house on wheels and living a more intentional life. If you've been watching the channel for a while, you know that I am, sorry about that. If you've been watching the channel for a while, you know that I am getting ready to move to Vancouver Island, and I am in the throes of getting everything ready, downsizing, clearing out, packing up, disassembling, all of those really good things. So what I'm doing right now is going through all of my paperwork. I have two bins like this that I have old paperwork in, and I don't need two because who needs utility bills and stuff like that from 2002, 2007, that sort of thing. So I'm downsizing, getting rid of the stuff that I don't need. I'll be taking it into get shredded so that I can get rid of it securely. So I'm in the middle of doing that, and as I was doing that, I found some interesting things that I thought would be a good thing to talk to you about. One of the first things I want to show is this Mother's Day card that I got from my youngest child. It's the coolest thing ever. It's a little pop-up card that they made when they were in kindergarten. It's adorable. It says, "I really do hope you know I love everything you've done." Happy Mother's Day. Apparently I did some good things back then. So anyways, this sort of stuff I'm definitely keeping. But this is not what I want to talk to you about. So the first thing I'm going to do is preface everything by saying none of what I'm going to talk about is advice. I'm not a lawyer. I would not presume to give anybody legal advice or insurance advice or anything like that. In my line of work, I do end up talking about both of these topics. I like to keep my work kind of separate from the channel. Definitely separate from the channel. But these are topics that I end up talking about in my line of work. But I am not a lawyer, and I do not sell insurance or anything like that. As I was going through my paperwork, I found something that prompted me to do something before I leave. And what I found was two things, really. The first thing I found were my will, personal directive, and enduring power of attorney documents. Now, the reason I want to talk to you about this is because I have a very good friend who's a provincial court judge here in Alberta, and also a wills and estates lawyer. And he will be doing the update to my documents that I'm in the process of getting done now. But what's interesting is that in Alberta, I live in Canada, and Alberta is the province I live in. And in Alberta, only 7% of people have a valid will, let alone the other two documents that I'm going to talk about, which is shocking because we're all going to die. And most of us will die with something that needs to be taken care of. Property, such as a home, investments, things like that. Many of us will have people that we want to make sure are taken care of when we're gone, that sort of thing. And so I want to talk about all three of these documents because they're different and they're very important. Again, keeping in mind that this is my opinion, I am not giving legal advice, and that every province in Canada is slightly different, and I'm sure that whatever country you're from will have different rules, different names for documents, and maybe not even require all three of these. But I wanted to talk to you about what these are and why they're important. So let's start with talking about the will. Everybody knows what a will is, or most people know what a will is, or have some idea of what a will is and what it does. In, very simple terms, a will tells the court what you want done with your stuff, how you want your debts attended to, and if you have minor children or dependents, how you would like to take care of them. That's basically what a will does. What surprises me is that only 7% of Albertans have one. And I doubt very much it's very different for any other province in this country. I have no idea what other countries are like. But what's important about a will is that that's where it lays out how you want your dependents to be taken care of. If you die, obviously, if, well, not obviously, but if you're a couple, a family with two parents, and one partner passes away, obviously the other partner is going to be taking care of the kids. But if you die in that fiery plane crash, that mythical fiery plane crash, and you're both gone, and you have not got a will, a legal document that tells the court, tells the government what you want done with your estate and how you want your children to be cared for and who you want to be caring for them, those children are technically foster kids until the court decides who's going to take care of them. Now, normally, if there's a family member, maybe your parents, maybe you have siblings, things like that, they will apply to the court, and the court will likely grant them guardianship, but not always. The court will take a lot of things into account: the age of the people that are applying, the relationship to the children, their financial situation, their home situation, their location, things like that. And the court will determine what is best for the children. I was hearing about a story where the grandparents applied for guardianship because they were the only family that the parents who had died had. And so they wanted to take care of their grandkids, and the court denied it because these grandparents were already in their 80s. I think they were like 78, 79, or 80, something like that. And the court decided that that was not in the best interest of the kids, because the grandparents were of that age, also for socialization and things like that. And so the courts actually denied that, and then those children actually did become foster children and were put with a foster family. So if that doesn't freak you out, then it should, because that is likely not what you want to have happen with your children if something horrible happens to you. So if for no other reason, if you have dependents, get your will done. Whatever it's called in your country. In North America, it's called a will. I'm pretty sure in England, in the UK, it's also called a will, but it could be something different. But it's the same type of document wherever, and it's really important because if you don't do that, the government will decide what happens to your children. The government will also decide how your estate is distributed, and it will charge to do that. And so if you think you've already paid enough to the government in taxes throughout your lifetime, do you really want everything to have to go through the courts with lawyers that are going to be paid for by your estate before anything can be distributed to the people that you leave behind? This is an important document. If you do nothing else, if you get no other bit of information that you actually act on in all of the videos I've ever produced, this is one that I really want people to hear and actually act on. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not giving you legal advice. All I know is that when I did my first will, and these documents were done in 2009, so it's definitely time to update them. I'm a little behind, but the only difference is that the kids are now no longer minors. They're both adults. So I no longer have to name a guardian or anything like that, and a trustee for the estate for them. But this is a very important document. Again, it tells the courts what you want done with your estate and how you want your dependents to be taken care of. The next two documents I'm going to talk about will likely be called something different where you live. But here in Alberta, they're called, the other two documents are the personal directive and the enduring power of attorney. And I'm going to go quickly over what those are and why they're important, because they are. So, power of attorney. Most people understand what a power of attorney is. Say you decide to take a trip around on a sailboat around the world, and you want to give somebody the authority to make financial decisions for you, pay bills, business decisions if you have a business, things like that. A regular power of attorney does that. It's important to note, and again, I'm only talking about Alberta, but that a regular power of attorney, the one that I just described, is only valid as long as you can revoke it. So if you get hit by that proverbial rogue bus and you are now in a coma and no longer able to revoke that regular power of attorney, it ceases to be valid, because it can only be valid as long as you can revoke it. So the enduring power of attorney, by definition, endures past that point. In fact, it only comes into effect, it only becomes valid when you are incapacitated, and only lasts as long as you're incapacitated. As soon as you come out of that situation, that state, it ceases to be valid. And so if you have a partner and you are legally common law or married, and you're joint on your accounts, obviously that partner can make decisions on the bank accounts and things like that because they're joint on there. But if they're not, or if you don't have a partner, then nothing can get paid. Your mortgage, your bills, nothing can get paid because nobody has the authorization to access your bank accounts, to make access your business and make decisions, things like that. The enduring power of attorney is what gives that person the ability and the power and the authorization to do that. So really important for everyone to have. This last one, I think, of the three, I mean, they're all super important. The will and this last one, I think, are tied for top place, and that is the personal directive. You may call it, in where you live, it may be called a living will, a health care directive, some version of that. But what it is, in Alberta, it's called a personal directive. In British Columbia, it's called a health care directive. What it is it gives that person that you name the ability to make medical decisions for you. You get hit by that rogue bus. You are now in a coma. You might think that your spouse or your common law partner can make decisions for you. As you know, the doctors at the hospital may know you very well. You may have been at every appointment with your partner, and the doctors, the nurses, everybody knows that you guys are partners, you guys are spouses, common law, whatever it is. But as soon as your partner slips into a coma, and you can't make any medical decisions for them without this document. In most places. Now, there are some places in Canada where that's not required. Wouldn't that be a horrible situation if the person most important to you in the whole world, your partner, is for all intents and purposes at a point where they will never recover? They're just being kept alive on machines, and you know very well that that person does not want to be kept alive. If you don't have these documents, you can't make that decision. And hospitals are in the business of keeping patients alive. So the personal directive, oops, the light went off. Sorry about that. My little light went off. So I just opened the curtains because the sun's gone around the corner. Anyways, I was talking about the personal directive, the health directive, the living will. It's just important to think about these documents, educate yourself, talk to a lawyer who specializes in this area. Do not go to the same lawyer that you get your business documents done, because that they are not specialists in this area. And at least here, the reason these documents are required, especially the personal directive, the living will, the healthcare directive, whatever it might be called, is because families fight. Something happens to a parent or a loved one, a sibling, and even though it's well known that they didn't, even though it's well known that they didn't want to be kept alive on life support, one family member is not ready to let them go. And so they fight in court, because there's no document where that person who is now incapacitated was very clear and stated legally that this is what they wanted done. That's why these hospitals now require these documents, at least in my part of the world. Having these documents was real peace of mind when I first became a single parent. And now that I'm moving to the island, and I found these documents, it was a reminder that it was time to update them. Though there's not much changed in here, except that now I don't need to name a different executor or they call them different in agent, depending on the document. But let's just call it executor or preferred person for our discussion purposes. I can now name Keaton because he just turned 29. He's mature enough to handle it. He can rely on my lawyer friend and also my good friends who've been through this process before with their loved ones through the probate process for advice. But he knows exactly where to find these documents. He knows exactly what I want, and he understands the importance and what the process is. Anyways, so I just wanted to share that. Again, this is my experience, my opinion, not my advice. So the other thing that I found while I was digging through, cleaning out my files, were my insurance policies. Now, I do have group insurance through my work, which is, I think, 2 times my salary. I also have critical illness insurance through my work, and I have disability insurance. But I also have my own individual personal policies that I pay for. And I have a life insurance policy and a critical illness insurance policy. Why am I even talking to you about this? Whether you buy insurance or not isn't really the point here, because that will depend on your individual situation. The reason I wanted to point this out is if you have individual life insurance policies, and actually even if you have group insurance policies, make sure that your beneficiaries know where they are. Make sure that your executor for your will knows where they are, because it'll be very important. You're going to need them. They're going to need to know where these are. They're going to need to know who your insurance advisor is, because your beneficiaries of your policy, your life insurance policy, is going to have to go to the insurance company, whatever insurance company. In this case, it's RBC Insurance that I have my life and my critical illness with. They're going to need a legal copy of your death certificate, and they will have to fill out some forms and submit that to the insurance company in order for the insurance company to pay out your life insurance. They're very fast about paying the life insurance payout. When I was an insurance advisor, and that was 7 years ago now, it's really literally you submit the paperwork and the death certificate, and within 2 weeks, sometimes even less, the insurance agent has the check in hand and is at your beneficiary's home to deliver the check to them. So if you're going to go to the care of having life insurance to take care of the people that the people that you're leaving behind, then make sure they know where the policies are, so that they can find them and do what needs to be done so that it can be smooth. And so for the life insurance, that's really important. And obviously the critical illness insurance, it's going to be for you while you're alive. So know where it is, put it somewhere safe. I have a file in here for this, but my will documents are going to be, I'm not going to actually keep these in my filing cabinet. I'm going to keep the original copies at my lawyer's office, which is here in Calgary. And I will just keep a copy in my filing cabinet. But again, my executor knows where those are. And so it's really important when you are getting organized, and moving is a perfect opportunity to do that, but really any day is a perfect opportunity to do that. Just make sure that the important documents in your life, the ones that when you're gone or when you are incapacitated, somebody will need to be able to find, make sure that that person knows where they are. Make sure that they're somewhere safe and secure so that they can find them and things can move along quickly. If it's that healthcare directive, that living will, that person's going to need to be able to find it fast. You can have it in your filing cabinet, you can store it in your safe, in a safety deposit box, but then again, make sure that that person knows where the key is. Make sure that they're also on that safety deposit box so they can get into it, because there's no point in going to all this work and expense and then having it be useless because nobody can find it when they need it. Okay, guys, the lecture is done. I hope you didn't think I was being naive. But I just think it's really important to take care of these things. And I would hate for people to find themselves in a situation where they can't make decisions for the person that they love. They can't access the funds that they need to take care of the children that are left behind, or that, God forbid, you know, the children are placed with a family member that you absolutely do not want taking care of your children, but because you didn't make a will, you didn't do whatever document is required where you live, the courts decide that that's okay. So anyways, I nag because I love you. Just remember that. So guys, I hope that was interesting. I'm trying to get a couple of videos filmed so that I can have them scheduled to upload while I'm in the throes of the move, you know, actually transporting the house, getting settled and all of that, because I will not be having the capacity to be filming and editing. Well, I'll be filming a lot, but I won't have the capacity to be editing and uploading while I'm in the middle of it. So I'm just going to get a couple of videos ahead and get those scheduled to post. And this was one that I thought was actually quite valuable, so I hope you thought it was too. In a world where you can be anything, be kind and take care of the people that you leave behind. I love you guys, and I'll see you next time.